Okay, my project is on Internal Revenue Code Section 45L, which is the non-business energy property credit. Um, my issue was, to what extent are home energy efficiency credits deductible for an individual person purchasing a property in which energy efficiency upgrades are made with the sole purpose of selling the property without actually having commissioned the improvements themselves. I'm going to start off with an explanation of Internal Revenue Code Section 25C, which is the non-business energy property section. The credit allows for one or two things, which is 10% of the total amount paid for and incurred by a taxpayer for qualified energy efficiency improvements installed within the taxable year to be deducted from their tax liability for that year, and also a certain amount of residential energy property expenditures paid for and incurred by a taxpayer during a tax year can also be deducted. The credit for a tax year cannot exceed $500. So typically, what happens is that people break up their improvements over time in order to maximize the amount that they're able to deduct from their taxes. Um, what I found is that, unfortunately, an individual purchasing a property that didn't actually commission or pay for the upgrades that were done to their house, regardless of the fact of if they were done for the purpose of selling the property, can't deduct the credits on their taxes. Um, the deduction has to be done by the person that actually commissioned or paid for these upgrades to be done. So basically, what would happen is the person, say for instance, if one person who owned a house did, say, bought solar panels and new windows, or they insulated their house and bought new windows for the purpose of making it more energy efficient to sell it, the person purchasing the house from them would not be able to claim a deduction on their taxes for these upgrades that were made. The seller, would be able to get the credits for it, but the purchaser would not. The only way that I can figure that the purchaser would be able to benefit from this credits would be if they came to an agreement prior to the house actually being sold, and part of the sales price included that these upgrades were done. In that case, then it would be possible, I believe, for the seller, for the purchaser to be able to get a home energy efficiency credit, because the price of the upgrades were included in the purchase price of the house, in which case they would have paid for or incurred the cost of the upgrades. Therefore, they would be able to deduct the cost of making the upgrades. Um, Another scenario that is similar to this is Internal Revenue Code Section 45L, which has to do with home energy efficiency credits for new homes. However, that is for contractors. In that scenario, it's pretty much the same thing. The contractor is able to get tax credits for doing these energy efficient upgrades, but the person purchasing the property from those contractors will not be able to deduct or get these tax credits. Um, Another scenario that I think might be plausible for the purchaser to actually take advantage of these tax credits would be, there's a program that is done through the HUD, which is the federal housing department. It's called Neighborhood Stabilization Program. It's called NSP. And what NSP does is they take foreclosed properties in different areas, and they um, do upgrades to them, which includes energy efficiency, and then they sell those properties to individuals in basically in order to try to stabilize the neighborhoods from all the foreclosures that have been happening. I believe in that instance, the purchaser would be able to claim the energy efficiency credits, because they were purchasing a property where basically the price of the property is dependent on the energy efficiency upgrades that were made to the property itself. So although they were not the contractor, they were not the person that commissioned those upgrades directly. Indirectly, they did commission them. For instance, the program as it's run in Detroit, how it works is that properties are not actually renovated until there's someone to purchase them. And then those individuals that is actually purchasing the property are able to give their input about what they want done to the property. So in that way, they're indirectly paying for and incurring the cost because they are involved in the um, setting of what the scope of the project is going to be, or what the scope of the upgrades are. And then in the end, when they actually purchase property, they are paying for those. That's my interpretation of how the tax code is, how the tax law is written for this particular code section. Um, Unfortunately, there are no court cases or anything like that in that have occurred that involve anything like this. There have been no individual cases where someone purchasing a property is attempting to claim a home efficiency credit. All of the court cases, the tax court cases that are out there have to do with contractors and what contractors are trying to claim. So for this, I really had to um, use my own discretion about what I think would be acceptable based on the tax code. And I do think that for something like that, or like the NSP project program, or also if someone was purchasing the property and the cost of the upgrades was included in the purchase price, I think for that they could also um, claim the credits. But outside of that, someone just purchasing a property in which home efficiency upgrades were made, they wouldn't be able to claim this credit because they didn't actually directly pay for those upgrades to be made. So that's pretty much it.